How do you feel these action-packed films prepared you for your now Hollywood career?
Well, I
Because you work so hard in Bollywood, you have to work much harder than any actor. Because you have to sing and dance and do action and stunts and everything.
some of us sing, not all of us sing. Thank you. Thank you, I do, but I'm not as talented as our incredible playback singers who have sung so many amazing songs for me in the past. But I think that the first time I actually properly touched action was in the first Dawn. I remember learning Tai Chi for it, and Farhan wanted me to really, for my introduction, have this amazing grace as this Tai Chi fighter. And I remember taking classes for it, and I really wanted it to go right. I wanted to, but by then, by the time I came to Dawn, I had realized that the most important thing to focus on is on my craft. Not about your relationships with your director, co-actors, not how you behave on set, but what you do between action and cut. And in order for me to be excellent and different with every character between action and cut, I have to do homework. So with every movie, even now, I do a lot of prep work, and a lot of prep went into training, went into the action sequences in Dawn, and I tasted blood a little bit. I look really good with a weapon in my hand, defending my country. What can I say?
Clap for the Dawn. And I completely love fashion. I was rewatching it again two days ago. Great performance, great preparation for it. It was not only a box office success and critical acclaim, but I think you put yourself into that role. You completely understood it and put yourself out there for it. So what were the challenges of that one?
It's a funny story. I'm telling you all a lot of funny stories. But
You have to topple the funeral one.
yeah, I'm gonna try and top it. So this was a time fashion came out, what, 2007 or something like that? 8? Thank you for my career is a blur. 2008. So I remember around 2006 or 7. I'm not from the film industry, and I didn't know people, and I didn't know how to get films, and you know, I did whatever films came to me. Like, I didn't know the networking, I didn't have uncles and aunties who were making movies for me, I didn't have relationships with people. I come from the outside, a small town called Bareilly. So I was navigating, wanting to do better films. I wanted to do like big movies, and I wasn't getting that stuff because I didn't have relationships with the powerful people, I guess. And I remember Madhur sir came to me with fashion, and everyone I was working with that time said, are you mad? You're gonna do a female-oriented film just by yourself, you'll end your career.
God forbid.
No, but it's true. At that time, we're talking early 2000s, like, female-led films didn't have the box office success that male-led films did. I mean, my generation of actresses, and there are many other actresses in the film industry who have really fought hard to change that, where now female movies do so well at the box office, and at that time fashion did. But coming to how it was made, Madhur sir came to me, and everyone who I was working with said, women do female-oriented movies, that's what it was called back then, at the end of their careers, because they want, awards and whatever. Now, I didn't come from films, I didn't know the difference. I only saw a great story, and I was like, chalo karte hain. The only thing that I did differently was, I remember, again, prep. I knew that the one thing that I have is my hard work. And hard work and destiny go hand in hand. You cannot, God only helps those who help themselves. So the only thing I knew I didn't have relationships in the industry, but I knew how to work hard on my characters. And I prepped with the writers and with Madhur sir for almost 6 months for that movie. I remember I had a chart for Meghna Mathur in my office room, which was from when she was a young girl, an aspiring model. Little things like her highlights would be really thick because she's from a small town, so her hair wasn't as finessed, to what her weight was like, to her style evolution, to how she spoke, to her body language. Like, in the beginning, I was a little bit more underconfident, and as you watch the movie, she starts standing up a little bit more straight, the hair becomes blow-dried, So those little details, I think, and Madhur sir really worked with me on it, and I enjoyed it so much. That was one movie which really taught me that I could create nuances and evolution within a character that was written. That I can take something from the page and give it life like the writer didn't even think about it. And that was one of the first movies where I learned how to do that. So when Fashion actually did really well at the box office, I remember we didn't have any money to promote it. And it's called PNA, Print and Advertising. So after a movie is done, you have to, do a press tour and you have to promote the movie. And we didn't have that much money because, it was a female-oriented film. And we'd spent a lot of the money making the movie. So I remember I spoke to a really big brand at that time. And I'm not a producer on this movie, but I just like to win. So I remember I spoke to a brand and I said, I'll come to 5 of your factories and I'll do free visits and you give us P&A money. And made a business deal at that time and got a whole bunch of money to take the entire cast around India and do a whole press tour. And that's how we got the money, by me just saying, I'll come to you for free. Just give us some money to promote this movie.
So that's when you became a producer, technically.
I started thinking like a producer.
Yes, exactly. You started thinking that you can take control of your own career, probably.
You can take control of your own destiny, yes. You have to, look, it's very scary to go against the tide, right? Like if something has been done the same way, it's easier to kind of change into that shape or follow that. But I just didn't know better. And my parents taught me to be a bull when I believed in something. My father especially. My father used to always, like even when I was a little girl, so, they used to sit around with their friends and I was always allowed at my parents' dinners and parties till I fell asleep on someone's lap and then they would take me up to my bed. But whenever they would be sitting and the adults would be talking or whatever, I would be having my apple juice, my parents would be having their drinks, whatever, and eating. And I remember that if I had an opinion and, the grown-ups were talking and if I turned around and said, but I don't think so, my dad would shut everybody down and say, what did you have to say? And not in a way like, listen to what my daughter is saying, she's so funny, not that way, but in a serious way. He would say, what do you mean? And then I will give my opinion, and then he would, reinforce my opinion. So it gave me a sense of confidence. I remember when I was in kindergarten, and kindergarten must be 6 years old, 5 years old, and because my parents were in the military, they had a nameplate outside where it said Lieutenant Colonel Ashok Chopra, and my mother was in the military, so it said Major Madhu Chopra, and then their designations. So my father was MBBS, MD, whatever, and so was my mother. So I was coming home from school one day, and I looked at it, and I asked my dad, I said, don't I live here too? And he changed the nameplate.
Oh.
And the next day,
blessings to your dad. For
he changed,
teaching you.
yeah, he changed, and he taught me a sense of self. I lost my father in 2013, but he was my biggest champion.
God bless us.
But at 6 years old, he gave me a sense of identity that said Priyanka Chopra, kindergarten C.
Sweet. So on to Barfi.
Wow.
Thank you for being such a great audience. Barfi, such an important film and a very delicate, emotional performance. That too was a great step in your career.
Funny story. I have funny stories with all my stories. I was shooting Anjana Anjani with Ranbir Kapoor in New York at that time. And when he was doing Barfi, so he was talking about it, and Anurag Basu were talking about it, and they were all talking about this, like, these characters in this movie, and I was like so intrigued. I had nothing to do with the film. But I told Anurag, so I was like, that's really interesting. Why don't we meet? I would love to talk about the film when you come back. And he just said, chalo aake milta hu, I'll come and meet you. And it just so happened that, so obviously, how many of you have seen Barfi?
Wow.
So my character is not glamorous, right? Chilmil is a 19, 18-year-old autistic girl on the spectrum. And when Anurag sir came to meet me, he was sitting at home, and I was running back from an event. Now when I go to an event, I look like this, right? That is not what my character looks like in the movie. And I ran in, walked into my living room, and I said, Anurag sir, I'm so sorry I'm late. I was at this event, and he just stood up and he looked at me and he said, Priyanka, you know, अगली बार मिलते हैं, मैं दूसरी फिल्म के लिए आता हूँ, I'll come to you with another movie. I don't know if this will work. I said, what are you talking about? He's like, how will I convince people that you don't look like this? I don't know how to do that.
It's called acting.
But it's more than that.
Yeah.
It's so much more than acting. It's like, and I understood his predicament because, you know, by the time I did Barfi, I was a well-known actor, and he actually wanted to cast. He said that if I don't find an actor who has the ability to do it, I'll have to cast somebody who is on the spectrum and a new actor. And I said, absolutely, you have the right to do it. I also don't want to do it badly. I would never want to play a character where I make a caricature out of, you know, people.
Especially in here.
So what I did was, I said, let's make a deal. We were sitting together, and while he's telling me I can't, he's like taking me out of his movie. I said, let's make a deal. Let's go to your office, 5 days. Give me 5 days. Again, the only thing I know I'm strong at is hard work and prep. So I said, give me 5 days. Do research with me for 5 days, and then you tell me if I can play this character or not. Even I don't want to do it badly. I never do something if I'm not 100% sure. So we went to special school where we met a lot of children on the spectrum, so from Asperger's to autism to cerebral palsy to all kinds of kids, because now we didn't know what Jilmin's character was. We didn't know what her you know, different ability was.